Okay. Okay. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to, let me just turn this down, the Garvey Villages Unlock the Chains and Keep Well, where our guest presenters give us the remedies and the keys. And this is part 33, I must say, and we are still going strong. And it's good to see, as is everyone here. So those who know of the Garvey Village, those who don't know the Garvey Village is will be a community centre with a difference being it's going to be a base for natural healers, base for homeschooling and Saturday school, after school, also training programs for the youth coming out of school and the youth coming out of prison, because when I came out of school, the girls had cookery classes, we had sewing, the boys had metalwork and woodwork and all of that kind of stuff. So when they came out of school, they had a skill or a basic skill that they can actually go to work with, start their own business with, or start an apprentice and move apprenticeship with and move on from there. That's all taken out of the schools now. So what the Garvey Village tends to do, or wants to do, is put back the basic skills, so that our youth have got a choice of working for themselves if they want to, you know. So that's one of the things. Also a base for social activities for the elders and for the young, and bringing the elders to the young. So we have intergenerational activities, so that the elders can find out that the young are not a waste of space, and vice versa, because there's a great big gap between the elders and the young. And one of my ideas is that the young can document the elders' stories, their life stories, their experiences, and that would also help bridging that gap. So that's about the Garvey Village. We are fundraising, and we'll be putting the information into the chat, so that you can help put towards, or even if it's something like even it's £1 towards this evening's presentation, we'll be very, very grateful. And on that note, I'm going to go on to do our libation, where we give thanks to our ancestors. We give thanks to our ancestors who was taken away from the shores of our home many years ago and dotted all around the world. I give thanks for the tenacity, the, as I say, the tenacity, the determination, the strength, the courage to carry on. Because if it wasn't for those ancestors who carried on, who kept it going, we would not be here now, today. So for those ancestors, I give thanks and say Ashe.
Sure.
I also give thanks to our heroes. As you see, we've got the Right Honourable Marcus Messiah Garvey is one of my main heroes, but he wasn't the only one. There have been many heroes and sheroes along the way that's actually opened a path for us and given us trust that we can move forward. We can, that we don't have to put up with what is actually given to us. We can survive all that is, as I said, put on top of us. Open up the ways, open up the doors, open up the pathways, the roads, and given us that drive, that oomph to keep going. So all those ancestors, the leaders and the shakers, the heroes and the sheroes in our past and present that actually have paved that way, the names we know, the names that we don't know, and the names that we'd never know, but they all did their part. For those ancestors, I say thank you, Ashe. I also give thanks to our own ancestors, the lineage that we fall on. My ancestors, your ancestors, the ancestors whose head and shoulders that we all stand upon, the good ancestors has made us the people who we are today, who's made us the people we are, who's given us the path that we're on, and who have guided us and been there for us all the way, even though sometimes we feel that we're on our own. We're not on our own. They are there, and they're actually there waiting for us to ask, to give them guidance, give them help, ask for their help. And when they do give us help, and sometimes I said along the way they have given us help but we haven't heard, you know, let our minds be open to the messages from our ancestors, especially if we've asked for help, especially if we've asked for guidance. Let our minds be open to receive those messages, and those messages can come in any form of way that you wouldn't even realize, you know, in a book, a song, etc. So for those ancestors whose heads and shoulders we're standing upon, the ancestors who we rely upon to keep us through and keep us going, and we're asking for help for, I say thank you and Ashe.
Ashe.
I also give thanks to the Most High, the creator of all things, the creator that has given us life, the earth life, the plants, the trees, the flowers, the water, that is our life, the sun, which is also our life, everything. I give thanks to our creator. Ashe, thank you.
Ashe.
I don't know if there's anybody who'd like to say a thank you to anyone.
I give thanks for today, yesterday, and tomorrow, and welcome everybody. Yeah,
Ashe.
Great. Another session.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Okay. Royston, is there anything that you would like to say? And has our first arrived? Yes, I see. Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful.
No, we're good. We're good. Welcome everybody. I think we know the routine, so we're good. Thank you.
And for those who don't, just keep your mics on mute and have a pen and paper handy for any questions that you may want to ask or might arise during the actual presentation, or you can write your question into the chat. Make sure you got some water to hydrate yourself also. And I think that is the rules. So without further ado, we get on to our first presentation. And we have our sister, Rachel Onikosi. I hope I pronounced that right. Please forgive me if I pronounced it wrong, because I am, well, people know that I'm terrible with names and pronunciations. And Rachel's going to be talking about money DNA, wealth, and I've changed the title because I spoke to you earlier, wealth and development. Okay, Rachel, welcome. The screen is now yours.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for inviting me, Auntie Jean and Uncle Royston. Really appreciate the invite. I haven't joined this meeting before, so I don't know where people are in terms of their, what I call money DNA. So please, at any point during the presentation, ask me questions, challenge me, just ensure that I can understand where you're at, because I can imagine that people are at different places in terms of our financial health. I normally give this presentation to people who have asked me to. So, so schools, colleges, organizations. Royston, I know we spoke about me speaking, but I'm not sure that it was purely to speak about this particular issue, because I also speak on other issues. But anyway, without further ado, I want to bring up a presentation which will help me with what I'm trying to speak to you about. So let me just pull it up. No. Files. Yeah, there we go. Right, what is going on now? Sorry, that shouldn't be there. That shouldn't be there. Let's get this. There we go. Can people see my screen at the moment?
Not yet.
Not yet, right, okay. a bit strange.
You haven't clicked on shared screen yet.
Yeah, I'm just making sure that I am not going to reveal things that I shouldn't. 1 second. It's not bringing up what I'm looking for, guys. Really bizarre.
You got too many things
here
open.
we are. Oh, here we are. Here we are. Found it. Excellent. Great. Okay. I'm gonna leave the layout like this. It's easy for me to do that.
Is it?
Anyway, so I call this presentation what can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit. Maybe switch.
Hello?
Yeah, you're not 100% clear. You are breaking
Can you
up.
hear me?
You're breaking up a bit.
Switch your video off, Rachel.
It seems okay on my end.
Okay.
She's gone.
Okay. Let's.
No, no, no. Okay, so looks as though she might have dropped off. Just have to wait a moment for her to come back on. When you're at the mercy of the system can sometimes show no mercy. Just give her a moment, hopefully she will log back on and we maybe be able to continue. So if it's radio, we have to fill the time. Yeah, okay, Brandy's got a watch. He's gonna show us time on his hands. Patricia, how was your week? How have you been? Greetings, Yah Walker.
I've been good, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, Rachel is coming back in. So hopefully, there you go. Connecting. That's what happens when you don't pay your bill, Rachel.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, yeah, let's go then, shall we?
Try again.
Yeah.
Try again. You haven't not started sharing yet, yeah?
Yeah, I'm trying. It's just acting up, to be honest.
Another option is that you could email me and I can present it for you.
Yeah, because it's
Your
causing
bandwidth
me
seems
some
slower.
problems at the moment.
Yeah.
Is it
Royston
give
at.
me, give me 2 seconds, Roston. I'm gonna send it over right now.
Okay.
Rachel, if your bandwidth is slow, try turning your video off because it uses more bandwidth when you use the video.
All right, Roston.
All we need is
I'm so sorry about all this.
That's okay. At least you're here.
You know what I might do? Honestly, I think I'm just gonna. If you can hear me, I think Royston, if you could just pass me over your email address. It's not coming up. Royston
Okay.
at.
Yeah, rdjconsulting.co.uk. I emailed you earlier, didn't I?
Yeah, no, I didn't get that anyway.
Oh,
Oh, DJ Consulting. It's just not allowing me to share it, and I just don't know why. I'm trying to.
never mind.
Okay, I'm just gonna crack on with the talk. If you guys can see me, then I will just go through it, if that's okay with you. I mean, would people prefer to see the presentation? Is that a must?
Well, why don't you try and send it to me and just keep talking and I'll catch up with you
Okay.
once I get it.
So the first thing I want to talk about is what I mean regarding, you know, what's people's money DNA. So I really want this to be an interactive session. So I'm going to ask people on the meeting what they think I mean by money DNA. There's no wrong answers. It'll just be good to kind of have a bit of a dialogue on it, that's all. Anybody?
Legacy of,
No.
of wealth.
Sorry, what's that?
Legacy of wealth.
Yes, absolutely. That's the sort of thing we're talking about. Anybody else?
That's which is in your system, you know, perhaps inherited through your culture, your family line, or one that you've inherited and made it a part of your day-to-day eat, sleep, walk, talk kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That I mean, in my.
I was going to share something similar.
Yes.
It's thoughts and ideas that you inherit around money. You know, like when I was growing up,
Absolutely.
You don't go on TV, or you think I'm made of money, and then you grow up and you find that you have the same thoughts and ideas. You're saying the same things about money. Your money is hard to come by.
Yes,
and all this.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Those are the things which I would say is definitely forms part of our money DNA. And, you know, from my perspective and for the work that I've done around this topic, it's about, you know, your income, your earnings, your social networks, you know, your mindset about money, the things you do with money, how you perceive money, and anything that kind of can affect your money. So essentially it's your relationship with money. And for the work that I have been doing and the people that I've met regarding their money DNA, what I find and what we all know is that, unfortunately, as the Black community, you know, we are financially deprived generally, you know, due to oppression, racism, and, you know, and those sorts of things. So it's really important for us to kind of be open about these that issue from my perspective, hence why I speak about it. The slide I was going to show you kind of just set that out, and it included 2 other kind of icons about your branding and your values. So, you know, who are you as an individual, and why you would or would not attract money based on your value system, especially about your value system relating to your relationship with money. And I also have an icebreaker here, and I really, really do want you guys to see this. So I'm going to quickly jump and see. Well, so the presentation is on its way to you. But anyway, I am going to the icebreaker. It's sentences which I'm going to ask you to fill in the gaps. And once you fill in the gaps, it really determines where you are with your money DNA. So if you do have pens, please try and join me in this. And I really would like to invite you to read out your answers to the. So the first line is, are people still there?
Yeah.
Hello? Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're still here. We're still here.
Yeah.
It's basically me asking a question. So the first thing is money is. Please fill in a gap which describes, from your perspective, money is. What is money to you? That's the first thing. Money is. The second one is money makes me, and it's a blank. So fill in how money makes you, and it could be anything, any way you want to kind of end that sentence. The third one is, I would say blank is a lot of money to me. There I'm looking for a figure for you to let yourself know what kind of value of money is a lot of money to you. The fourth one is, if I had more money, I could, again, fill in the blank. What could you do if you had more money than you have now? The fifth one is, I have blank relationship with money. So you would fill in, you know, where you feel your relationship, what you feel your relationship is with money. And the last one is, I would describe money as, again, you fill in exactly how you feel about the description of money to you. Have people participated in that?
Could you repeat those
Because,
questions
I
again?
would really like to
Yes,
You
I was super fast, man. I was super
you
fast.
went through them quite quickly. So can you repeat them? Because not everybody can write very fast.
Yes. What it is, Auntie Jean, because I'm not looking at you guys, I'm waiting for someone to interrupt me and tell me.
See. All right.
Yes. Royston, you now should have a presentation in your inbox in about 2 seconds.
Yep, it's arrived.
Brilliant. So that will make my life a lot easier in trying to gauge the group and also read the presentation. Are people in the chat talking to me? Let's have a look. Oh, no, just hello. Fine.
Can you see that,
Is this
Rachel?
you, Weston?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, thank you. So we need to skip to slide 5, I think. Oh, here we are. Here it is, guys.
Yeah.
So all I'm looking for is blanks in these spaces. Whatever words come to mind, basically, because what this does, the power of this, it really lets you know, where you're really at with money and how you feel about it. I find it's very powerful.
Okay.
Right. If people are happy, could I just get some volunteers to tell me perhaps what they have written down in relation to these sentences? Anybody?
I've said money is the means to life.
Yes, fantastic.
I've said money is energy, it provides.
Excellent. Yeah.
I've said money is needed for everything.
Okay. What one was that in relation to?
It said
money. Oh, yes,
money
money is. Yes,
money
of course.
is needed
Yes.
for everything.
Yes. Any other volunteers?
Money
Like
is
to-
freedom.
Freedom, absolutely. Yeah.
I put money is spending power. Sorry.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, that's good. Thank you, Sister Queen. I'm going to. Anybody else?
Money is necessary.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Money
Great.
comes in handy.
All the time, all the time. Brilliant.
Money
I'm
can
going
be
to
the
move.
root of all evil.
Money is a tool. I love that one. It's
That's
an
the love of
empowerment
money.
tool as well, isn't it?
Money is used to control black people.
Yeah.
Money,
Yes. Yes.
money
Who
is
was that? Was that YB?
That's the lack of
coming in.
money.
Yeah, that's good. Right.
money is flow.
Money is flow. That's right. Yeah, indeed. Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next slide now. So the next slide describes how I feel about money and my relationship with money. So brace yourself, guys. So to me, money is freedom. Money makes me feel secure. I would say 3 million is a lot of money to me and nothing less. If I had more money, I could become the UK's best philanthropist. Have I spelt that correctly? Philanthropist, yes. I have a loving, yes, I have a loving relationship with money. I would describe money as my health, wealth, and best friend. So just things that you said really resonate with what I've said. The reasons that I think like this is because of my money mindset. It's because when I think about money, I think of positive things. I think of things that make me feel secure, that feel happy, that feel abundant and powerful. So as a result of that, this is my response to that exercise. Any comments on my icebreaker quiz?
Why would you say that money is your health?
Because, well, I'm going to come on to that later, but I'll quickly say something. So, you know that obviously being financially deprived has obviously a negative impact on humans anyway. So, you know, lack of money would have an effect on your health. The stress and anxiety around that would have, in my view, a biological, psychological, and theological impact on our health. And it goes down to the cellular level. And we've seen with COVID, the inequalities in health and what it's done to, in particular, you know, Black people be more susceptible to COVID. So that's why I would describe money as being my health. If that makes sense to you.
I agree.
Next slide, please. Thank you. Next
slide. That's all right.
You.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I was saying that money was a tool that's been used to deprive many.
And I think that is a very true statement. And the reason why my mindset has stayed clear from those conversations is because we are living in a time whereby we use money as our everyday means to make exchanges for goods, for you name it, for services, for education. So I want to, the journey I'm embarking on is a positive journey of, within the given means that we have, what relationship do we have with money to make ourselves more healthier, wealthier, and more empowered? That's what I do. That's my own perspective on it. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just talking about where I'm coming from and how I had to change my mindset to get to where I am at the moment. Yeah. So why talk openly about money? We've mentioned some things already. My focus is certainly on the Black community. Again, you know, the economic, financial disadvantage around money, and why are we like that? Certainly in my household, as a Nigerian born in the UK, I lived in a council estate on the 8th floor. My parents didn't have much money. And I remember my mum talking about the fact that she was making, this was sometime in 1994, about £500 a month. That was her salary, and she had 5 children. So I don't even know how she coped with that. So she wasn't in a place, you know, bless her, to educate me about money. I had to do it myself, and that's what I've done. But we know that obviously the social inequalities, racism, oppression leads us to, I think, and I've looked around the room, and I can safely say there are some people who I think are my seniors. So they might have a different mindset about money. They might be millionaires. I don't know your situation, but I know that when I speak to the Black community, when I go to colleges and schools and workplace organisations, it's the Black people telling me about their testimonies and difficulties they have around money. So that's why I focus on it. And let's be honest. I mean, you know, we've had COVID since March, haven't we? And we've got a significant number of people using food banks at the moment as a result of COVID, a significant number of people who have lost their jobs. And the fact that the Black community are already disadvantaged from the very beginning, we already know that COVID is going to have a significant impact, an unfair impact on our community. I could tell you about, in COVID, I lost 2 employment contracts. So, you know, come April, I've lost 2 streams of income like that. That's how it affected me. What I did was use the opportunity to go out there and find some more contracts. I was able to do that, but not everybody's going to be in that position, you know, so that's why I talk about it. Is anybody in the group happy or willing to tell me, give me some examples of how they've suffered or even excelled during COVID around money, or things related to money, so employment or things like that?
I used to work before COVID. Now I've been like just looking more for work. There's not much work on the as there was before COVID. And my employer did furloughing, but now they're not paying anymore because they say they haven't got any money left, so they can't pay anybody anymore furlough.
Yeah. Okay. So you obviously suffered through that. Yeah. Anybody else? Any kind of negative or positive testimonies or anecdotes? And this is really just to emphasize that, again, I think it's really important. In my view, we are disadvantaged. Black Lives Matter set that out quite clearly in their terms of their campaign and principles. And when we get disasters like COVID, those that are going to suffer the worst are going to be the Black community within the UK, and I would say across the world.
What I have to say was, I've been doing teaching online.
Oh, brilliant.
Since the lockdown business, I do like, it's all free though, I don't pay because most people don't seem to have much money still. But I do like free teaching online, and that's kind of keeps me busy, you know.
I've actually become busy.
You could offer your services to organisations. Right. So that's a positive story then, Royston, isn't it?
Yeah, I've become busier. But it's a mixture of, I'm definitely doing more free stuff online, but I'm also getting paid for other things online as well.
Okay.
Charm?
Yeah, hi there. I'm the organizer of a Northwest London pop-up market, and we started that in July, providing a platform and space for Black business owners to come and promote and trade and do business. So I've been organizing them every month since July, and just gearing up for a festive market, and have made a big investment to facilitate the market indoors by having a very large marquee.
How's it going?
It's going really well, really well. The businesses are really keen to have a platform in which they can come and do business. It's not all about online. There's some things that work better when you're face to face, and the energy is so positive. People are really, despite what's going on, even for me personally on an emotional level, it's just really encouraging to be working with so many beautiful melanated people.
Yes, yes.
So just to say, if anybody is interested in having a platform in which to come and promote business, making stuff, creating stuff, providing services, you can check me out, get at me, you can drop me your message on the chat or call me. I'll put my number in the chat so everyone can have it.
Excellent, fantastic, thank you. Can I ask your name, Galaxy? It says Galaxy Tab A. Can I ask you your name? Is that okay?
Oh, I'm doing it from my phone. I'm Charm.
Charm, hi Charm, nice to meet you. Really, really good to hear that. I'm glad that things are working out to a good degree. Can we move on to the next slide, please, Royston?
Patricia wants to make a comment.
Patricia, I beg your pardon, yes.
Sorry, can I just ask if people want to connect with other people like Charm does, as well as your number, could you please put your email address in the chat as well?
That's a good idea, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Brilliant. Okay, so I think we've kind of covered the impacts of financial deprivation, and none of us on here are, are poor in terms of not being able to feed ourselves, I would hope. But I certainly think it's important that I had to, learn a new skill of having a relationship with money, which meant that I would be getting paid more than £500 a month like my mum was getting, and I would decide, my salary range when I go for, jobs in the employment market. I would ensure that I am well educated and informed about things, whether it be academically or the world. I got myself into a position where, I was able to go out there and purchase a home. So this was all about me saying, there's work I need to do around my money DNA to change my circumstances and ensure that my parents who came here from Nigeria in the 60s for a better opportunity, I'm living that life that they wanted for themselves to make it worth it. But I think we've covered most of these. I mean, in another session, which I do, I really go into the kind of the health well-being. I know somebody mentioned that earlier. The relationship between lack of finances and the anxiety and stress it causes, and the ailments and diseases it can cause, which go to a cellular level, and we don't even know the relationship or even think of the relationship between that. It's so deep. I couldn't obviously spend enough time tonight talking about that, but that's just a thing that we need to watch on. Our stress levels, which are related to financial deprivation, has an effect on our well-being and our health and the energy that we put out there in the world. Next, any questions on that? Okay, next slide, please, Royston. Yeah, okay. So I've spoken about change in relationship with money. Again, anybody in this meeting who has been doing this and is good at it and are millionaires, please, by all means, get involved in what I'm saying. Again, I've changed my mindset. What I started to do was take things which I found painful and I turned it into my passion. For example, I'm now a violin player. I played the violin when I was very, very young, stopped at about 14. I picked up the violin some years ago. I'm now playing the violin. I'm at a stage where I can now charge for my services, so I can go to gigs and charge some money. So I upskilled myself, I'm learning things to relearn things and have a different mindset about my view in the world about money. I'm sure many of us do this anyway, but this ideology that, we go to law school, graduate, do our maybe at BBC, whatever the equivalent barrister qualification is now, become a barrister, and then that's us, we're happy in work until we get to maybe mid-30s, early 40s, 50s, we're unhappy, a bit bewildered, we want a new job, but we haven't got the skills. So I think it's always important to consistently assess your skills and abilities and the service that you can offer. And that could run in tandem with what you might do as a day job, but it's just making sure that we've got good value as a people and we can offer those services in the environment that we are living in the UK. People might have heard about a vision board. That normally comes or is heard about when people talk about law of attraction. I like to create a money vision board, and the money vision board is pretty much saying things like, I am going to earn X amount in this year because I am going to do X, Y, and Z in order to facilitate that. I'll come on to an example of a money board shortly. I'm also very good at critically analysing my environment, who my friends are, the partners I might have in my life. You know, whether I'm around negative or positive people. I would find that if I'm around negative people who have a very bad money DNA, are not going to help me excel with my money on my money DNA venture. I need to be around the right people, the right mindset, because some people do hold us back. It is what it is. And some of those people could be family members. Let's be clear. Daily affirmations and rituals, praying, you know, giving thanks, like we saw Auntie Jean do earlier. You know, these are the sort of things we do to bring more money into us and create value for ourselves. And then act like you're wealthy. You know, fake it until you make it. If you don't have it, fake it until you make it. If you want a Mercedes, go to Mercedes-Benz showroom and test drive that car. If you drive past a road and you keep seeing this house you want to buy, go and see whether you could view the house. You know, get into the state of actually you can be quite close to your dreams. We have to act and feel like we have it already, so you act wealthy. And I tell you, I'm probably a connoisseur in faking it until I've made it. I wouldn't say I've even made it. I would say that I've been able to attract a lot of money, but I think I act more wealthy than I am, and I enjoy it. And what it does, it opens up opportunities to me, and I've prepared for those opportunities. So yeah, next slide, please. This is an example of a vision board. It's obviously been typed up, but it's a money vision board. So if you can see the top there, by 2021, I'm planning to increase my salary. And then you talk about the things you're going to do that. So this is mine. I'm showing you some of the things that I'm going to do. In 2021, I will start playing the violin at gigs, and this I will charge a fee of £800 per gig. That's me saying, I want to live that out and manifest that. I'm going to write it down. That's my focus and my vision. Between 2021 and 2025, I will be a professional public speaker charging £300 per hour. I'm being specific and clear on what I'm saying. I will be. I'm not saying I want to be. I'm not saying I'm thinking about it. I'm saying this is what I want to happen. So I'm going to write that down and put it out there in the universe. And then I normally have my money board somewhere in the house where I can see it every day. So it becomes kind of part of my mantra and my kind of everyday consciousness. You can see the other two down there. I will work on my branding and become one of the world's best public speakers. I will receive so many bookings that will need an agent to manage my public speaking business. You see why I'm saying what I'm saying, and I'm putting it out there for it to be really meaningful to me without any uncertainty around that. And the last one I've got there is, I will also write a book about public speaking and release it on Amazon. I will also produce an audio book. So that's my money vision board. So it's about things I'm going to do to increase my money, increase my value, increase my skills, and be doing the things that I've planned to do. Any comments on that?
The only comment I have on that is that I've never really thought of a money money vision board. Always a vision board for what you want to do, what you like to do and everything, but you know, money's never really come into it. So this is the first time I've seen a money vision board, but it's a good idea.
Well, I'm happy about that. And if you notice, Auntie Jean, we're also including the things that we want to do, isn't it? The things we want to manifest, whilst attaching to that a figure.
So it includes both, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the whole point about it. And for me, I find it really powerful. And I can tell you, since like 2010, everything I've written down has come to pass. and it makes me get goosebumps because I get a bit frightened when I write things down. I'm like, okay, am I asking for too much? And I'm like, no. The world is an abundant world. You write down what you want to manifest. As long as it's positive, it doesn't obviously violate anybody else's rights to manifest their own dreams, then you embark on that journey. So that's my money vision board. And later on, I'll kind of make some recommendations about maybe how you could create one. Next slide, please. Okay, this is interesting. So I thought we'd play a little quiz. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but I've got 2 prizes to give Auntie Jean and Royston. But I did check with you if it's okay. What I want to do is for this quiz, whoever gets, I've got £200 Amazon vouchers to give away as a prize. Yes. If people are able to match at least 2 of the get right the matching of salaries. Yes. So if people want to participate, please do. So I've got 6 people there, I'm included, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 salaries. I want you to match them.
In the chat.
Based on, yes. So you're basically deciding who you think receives X salary. That's what you're doing.
Okay.
Oh, there's a big amount, isn't it?
And this is the whole point. Yes, this is one about
wow.
What maybe what we do if we if people want to write it down and or you can say it now, it's up to you, because the first people to get any 2 right, then I'll make a note of that and then they'll get the vouchers. Okay, so who's that?
So Rachel, this is working against me because I'm presenting. I can't type in chat because
okay. Okay, well I would say Sanchia's typed in chat Tyrell 80. Rachel is 200k, and that's from YV. Royston, say what you want to say.
So Ian is between 156, 178.
Yeah. Anybody else can call him out. I'm taking a note.
I'm typing it up in the chat.
Okay.
Catherine is on 95. We've just got a 95.
Catherine is 95k.
Yeah.
Catherine, 95k.
He's on 100k. Ooh, he's doing all right.
Marvin is 90k.
Okay, one sec. So I'm typing in I'm looking in the chat, and Marvin, that was Sanchia, wasn't it? Okay. Who else said Marvin? Was it Royston that said Marvin?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Marvin's 90k.
90k. Okay. Can I stop just for 1 second, because I think that I'm just checking. We've got Tyrell 80k was Sanchia. Rachel from YV was 200. Ian from Royston was 156 to 178. Donovan from YV was 156. Catherine 95 from Royston. Marvin from Sanchia 78k. Marvin from Royston 70k. I could say Sanchia has got 2 right already, so she wins one of the £100 vouchers.
And Rachel 100k upwards.
Rachel 100k upwards. Okay, let's have a look at that. Where's Royston? I think Royston, you may also be a winner. Royston, you said Royston. Ian, yes, you're a winner, Royston.
Okay,
also. But I know that YV, that's it. YV, you put quite a few in there, haven't you? Marvin, one thing, okay. yeah. Okay, Santia. Okay, all right. I'm going to reveal the next slide. Well, I'm just going to quickly look into the chat to see whether YV had come up with any correct answers to this, because you did put quite a lot in there, didn't you? Let's have a look.
Rachel looks like a winner.
YV, where are you? So YV said Tyrell is 90k. That's not correct. YV said Rachel 200k. Donovan White, that's not correct. Oh no, actually, no, that's correct. Let's have a look. Okay. It looks like we've got 2 winners, and that's Sanchia and Marvin. Okay. And I'll reveal the next slide now, so you can see what I'm talking about.
So do you want to say who those people are? Because not everybody will know who they are.
Oh yeah, if you next slide.
Okay.
Next slide. Yes, okay. So here we go. Okay. Taiwo Owatemi, MP for Coventry Northwest. She's on 80k. She's our MP, elected in December 2019. She's doing a fantastic job in Parliament. Ian Thomas, he's a CEO of Kingston Council. He's on 156 to 178k. I couldn't quite get the right figure, but that's the bracket he's in. Me, I'm public affairs and a business owner. I make equivalent to 100k upwards, depends on the contracts that I secure. Donovan Bailey, head of strategic partnerships at HS2 High Speed Rail. He makes circa 95k. Catherine Memma, she's a director of public health Lewisham, circa 90k upwards. And Marvin Rees-Smear of Bristol, circa 79k. So I drew these people in for a reason. One, because I wanted to showcase Black people who are making what we would call, I guess, good money from the average earner, and that they're normal people and they're very approachable, they're nice people. And also I wanted to see like how people perceive people based on their looks in terms of, you know, and have a huge responsibilities, yes. And also how they perceive people based on their look. So I hope you enjoyed that. But two winners, Sanchia and Royston, you've got £100 Amazon vouchers from my company. So I'll get that over to you later. Is that all right?
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. You're welcome. Next slide. Any comments on that exercise or quiz?
Yeah, I didn't get opportunity to.
Yeah, go back.
Hold on.
Well done, Sanchez.
Yes, okay, here. Any comments on that? It was just a quick quiz for us to kind of get our head thinking about salary ranges. If not, I'll do the next slide. All right. Apparently Christmas has come early for Sanchia. I'm glad. By the way, Sanchia, if you don't mind me mentioning who you are, how do you feel about that? Respond to me in the chat and I'll introduce you. But Shayi Aki Wowo, she's the founder of Glitch UK. And Glitch UK is all about, you know, trying to reduce online abuse, in particular with women. But these are the things that I saw on her Twitter feed, yes, on the 10th of November, and I thought it was really relevant to today's talk, so I just couldn't help myself but snip and show you what she was saying. And as you can see, she's letting everybody know she's now debt-free, okay? I think Shay is going to be maybe late 30s. Debt had arrested my sleep. I slept for 12 hours last night while holding back the tears. Literally, what a wow. Yeah. So we're talking about serious stuff. So again, when we talk about health and the financial consequences, oh, she's late 20s. Oh, please don't tell her I aged her. Please. She's a lovely woman. She's a lovely woman and she's in her late 20s. But yeah, so when we talk about health and financial deprivation, it's a serious issue. We're talking about not sleeping. If you move on to some of the other tweets, you know, debt, inheriting a poor relationship with money was one of my biggest triggers. I've avoided opening letters. I'd comfort eat. I avoided checking my credit score for 5 years. Paying the minimum while convenient was making things worse. Whilst convenient was making things worse. Not all debt is bad. I lived off my credit card for 2 years while I was running Glitch as a campaign not-for-profit and freelancing on the side. I have to chase for invoices to pay so I wouldn't get charged for going over the limit, reduce credit bills, etc. And she talked about obviously how she had to now double her rates to get out of debt and live a healthier relationship with money. So she's saying the things that I talk about, you know. And she then talks about obviously investing in an accountant and a bookkeeper, but those people who are trained to not be fazed by money, and they obviously helped her out. And what was really interesting with her tweets was that she tweeted at two people. One was Martin Lewis, the finance guy, and he responded saying, "Happy debt-free day." So, you know, this is some real stuff that we're dealing with. It's not every day. This is a real issue in our community. And I really want to play a part in changing people's mindset around their money DNA. So if we have no questions on that or any comments, then I'll go to the next slide.
What is Glitch?
Glitch. So it's a it's an organisation founded by Shayi. It's all about reducing tackling online abuse, particularly towards women. So Twitter, social media, Instagram, Facebook, you know, not allowing it to be normal, not normalizing the abuse that women face in the social media world, and being more empowered as a woman to decide whether you respond to somebody who's been rude to you, or maybe a misogynist talking down and patronizing you, and really giving them the empowerment tools to make better choices about their social media habits. So a really, really great cause, and I would recommend you go and have a look at a website when you get a moment. Yeah. But again, the importance actually of Shay is that we're talking about a professional who has also been an elected politician, being somebody who maybe from the outside in, she looks like she's doing well, everything's nice, she's going around talking about glitch and wanting to change and empower women. But whilst she is doing that, she's having to go through her own demons with money. Yeah. So these are just some my tips on how to become a money magnet, and I'm sure there's plenty more, and I'm sure that you guys have your own ways of doing that. But I always look for opportunities. I gave one regarding COVID and how I lost 2 contracts in April. I'm now on 3 more since then. Had I not lost the contracts, I probably would have sought those opportunities that were out there, because I wouldn't have been looking. But some examples of how you could.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
Sorry.
Yeah. Some examples how you could look for opportunities to get paid, you know, proofreading if you're good at reading, public speaking, hair design, makeup, instruments, paying, buying, selling, investments. There's various things. It's, you know, how to okay, yeah, thank you, Pauline, for that. Really humbling. Thank you. So yeah, just ways to increase your ways of bringing money into your household and being more free, essentially. We spoke about using the appropriate language, and I never ever use that word, the B word, because I believe that everything I say would come to pass. So I'm never ever going to be that. It's not going to be my story. I always talk about, you know, abundantly, you know, I love money, money loves me, and it's all positive affirmations to ensure that I feel good about money, and I can always generate money, and also do the philanthropy work that I do, because I have a good money DNA. Yeah. We already spoke about power of value and purpose and know your worth. So that could be anything from, you know, negotiating the new salary when you get a new job. And statistics have shown that women are less likely to negotiate than men, in particular, black people from the black cohort are less likely to negotiate. If they do, they don't negotiate a real upper level. That was some research I saw some years ago. I'm not sure what's true today, but not being afraid to have those conversations. You know, they can't retract the job from you. It's you asking about your worth, isn't it? If you are somebody who's keen on doing voluntary work, voluntary work is great, but if you're doing it consistently and there's an opportunity now to get paid because you're now a skilled expert in that field, then you can be speaking about how you could get paid for doing work beyond the voluntary work, you know, for your skill set. Spoke about that, and again, money vision board. So I think I've commented on some tips and tricks to change how you think about money and start attracting it in your life. The next slide, I think. Okay, so we're now almost coming to a close, and I just wanted to kind of let you know about me, because I deliberately didn't do that at the start, because, you know, I think if I start saying who I am and where I've been, I wanted people not to know my kind of past unless I told you. So I first started as a civil servant, and I, you know, worked with the police, various ministerial departments. My last role was working in the Department for Business, and I was advising ministers like Vince Cable, Matt Hancock, Joe Swinson, and various others on consumer protection policy. I then became an elected councillor in Lewisham in 2014, and I spent 1 term. I was fortunate enough to be posted to the cabinet, so I was advising Steve Bullock on the portfolio covering the public realm. So that's like the environment, licensing, street trading, car parking, parks, open spaces, air quality and things like that. Since then, new slide. Next slide, please. This is where I am now. So this is how it's going. So at the moment, my life, working life, looks like I sit on 2 boards as a non-executive director. I'm a public affairs and communications consultant for various organizations. I sit as a magistrate in 2 local magistrates courts. I'm a public speaker on empowerment, money, branding and purpose. I'm a business owner of an investigations company. I've recently got into farming, so I'm now growing crop. And that's been happening for the last maybe 8 or 9 months, and that's going okay. And yeah, I'm seeing what else I'm going to do in the future. So that's how it's going for me. And I try to keep humble, give back, as I say, being a philanthropist. And what I realize is that, you know, money flows. So the more I give, the more opportunities and doors open for me. And that's the kind of equation that I've seen, that circular money economy in my life. The more I give, the more I get an opportunity. And that's how it's been working. So I'm very, very thankful to the Most High for that.
You got a question from Scott? Scott,
Yeah.
Scott got a question. Scott? Scott?
I think he
dropped off.
Probably changed his mind.
Okay, carry on, Rachel.
Okay. Yeah, so this is just about me, really, so you know who's speaking to you. The next slide, we're coming to a close, is if there's anything that I think is important to take away from this mini session I've done, is for all of you who feel, thank you, YV, circular economy, that sounds good, to take from this session, is by the 31st of December, if you haven't got one already, create your money vision board. You know, it will take you, I don't know, an hour potentially to do that. And maybe if you are in a place where you're thinking, you know, what is 2021 going to look like for me and beyond? Am I happy in my career? Are there things that I know I can do because I'm skilled at them, but I haven't done it professionally or in exchange for money? Think about how you upskill yourself in 2021 to become that person that you think about in a professional world. It's possible. So if there's anything to take for tonight, it's just do these 2 things, and I'll always be happy to have a conversation how I can help facilitate and assist you in your thinking around how to do these things. I think there's one more slide, Royston, and that's it. So it's for further discussions, by all means, take my mobile number. That's my Twitter account. And I'm always happy to have discussions, whether it be informing me, challenging me, upskilling me, giving you some advice around any issue. I'm always around. So that's that, folks. And I hope it's been helpful. I hope it hasn't been patronizing, and that we, you know, together improve ourselves around our money DNA, so that it's not just about us as individuals or our family or friends, it's about the wider community and how we can invest in our communities and work better together, especially where finances are needed to do things and change the way that especially our young people are viewed and the opportunities that are currently not open for them. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Has anybody got any questions? Last minute questions?
Auntie Jean, can I ask a question? It's Pauline here.
Pauline, hi Pauline.
Thank you, Rachel. Excellent presentation. How do you think it is important for skills and continually educating ourselves is linked to the finances that we acquire?
Yes, I think it's extremely important. I think that I'm going to give you an example of being in the workplace. So you're working I don't know, you're a civil servant and you're a policy manager. You you joined the job 15 years ago, and you've been doing policy manager work for a long time, but you're finding that there's new skills that have come about now. There's new things, new systems, new procedures, new processes. It's very important for you to be on top of your game all the time, because what happens is, in that scenario, the younger ones that are coming in, the graduates that are coming in, who are 20 years your senior, who are skilled in these arenas, will get those promotions before you. So if you're somebody who wants to increase your money DNA, who wants promotion, you have to take that responsibility. It's not always easy. It could be a real headache, and you have to invest time in yourself. This is time investment. But I say the more skilled you are, the more that you can then teach your children, you know, about how to upskill them, empower themselves, and the more you can teach the community and the people that see you as a role model. So I think it goes hand in hand as far as I'm concerned. Not everything is about money, let's be clear, because people do a lot of things for altruistic reasons. But even in that setting, you see, you know, you could be an exemplar and a role model to a young person that's come to listen to you speak. You know, you've upskilled them in that one session that they've been in, listening to what you spoke about. So I think it's very important. Has that been a good answer, Pauline?
I live by continuous learning. I've been learning since I started work, and I've never given up. Every opportunity, and even recently, before COVID, thanks to a very good friend, she set up business workshops for Black women to attend, and people attended the workshops. As a result of it, I'm setting up my own consultancy, thanks to my good friend who's on the call.
Yes, see, you've answered the question. Absolutely, continuous improvement is absolutely what we should be doing. But let's also be honest and open. I think that because of the difficulties we have around finances, around the social inequalities that we face, with the employment, education, and health, etc., you find that sometimes people don't have the energy to look about upskilling. And that's why I say, if you write it down on a money vision board, you don't have to think about it. You've written it down. It's there in front of you every single day. You know, it becomes part of your DNA, your consciousness. You start thinking and walking continuous improvement because you're trying to live out your dreams, your vision board. You see? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
One of the things that I come across, Rachel, is that so somebody goes to do some work, and so let's say that work is for 2 hours, and they go in and they charge for the 2 hours time to do that work. Now they have spent 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks going back and forth, emails, negotiation, phone calls, all of those things, negotiating that piece of work, and they ignore all of that input and only charge for the 2 hours of work. And often our mindset is stuck in that, oh, I can't charge them too much because I'm only doing 2 hours work, missing out on the 20 hours that led up to that 2 hours of work. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, well, you know my views, Royston, on these things. I would certainly say, if that is a continuous thing and somebody is investing time to deliver for an organization that they're presumably being commissioned by, yes, then you have to either have the power in you to have those conversations about renegotiating the contract, renegotiating the terms. You know, you haven't agreed voluntary work, so why are you doing it voluntarily? We shouldn't be afraid to have those conversations. You know, and I suppose everybody's different. Everyone has different skills, but if I find myself in that scenario, I will be having that conversation with with the commissioners, and I'll be saying, I think we need to look at, you know, a different kind of payment mechanism of value. And if they're not willing to do that, then I will go elsewhere, because they're letting me know they don't see my value. So how can I, you know, work with you if you don't see my value? That doesn't work for me. You know, I know it's not as easy as that, but I've got myself to that place.
Yes.
I'm saying no bad clients. No, thank you. I don't want to work with you.
But the
You know,
essence
I will
is
go
that
elsewhere. Opportunities are waiting for me. Yes.
the essence is you value yourself first, and then others will follow. Because if you don't hold a value for yourself, then they won't hold a value for you. Is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
just quickly, sorry, Auntie Jean, and if they see that you're investing those hours, because they know you're sending those emails, they know you're doing that paperwork, and they see you're not asking for no more money, you're already letting them know how you value yourself. You're letting them know that. You know, we're not juniors, are we? We're grown adults. We must behave accordingly, you know? So, yeah. Hope that's helpful.
Okay, thank you. I know there's a couple more questions. I see Marlon's got a hand up, but Marlon, could you put your question in the chat, because we really do need to move on to our next presentation. So thank you very much, Rachel. Very informative. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Fantastic presentation, fantastic.
Thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I will stay on to listen to the other speakers anyway. So I'm here if you have any questions in a group. Anyway, so
yeah. So hopefully, if anybody's got any questions, they can put it into the chat and you can answer via that way. Yeah. Okay. All right. We move on to our next presentation. We have a brother from Blackstocks called Viv Ahmun, and we're talking about Black Men for Change. Thank you. Viv, are you there?
Yes, I most certainly am, sister. I'm here.
Okay, thank you and welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right.
Oh, shall I just begin?
Yes, yeah, just make a start.
I'm used to the introduction. That's why it caught me off guard.
All right.
So, as you rightly said, my name is Viv Ahmun, and I see a few people in here I know. That's Sandra Richards, my beloved sister, and a few others. It's Friday evening. It's been an extremely long week. In fact, I've just got back from Liverpool. So I'm not sure if I want to start with Black Men for Change. I think I want to start maybe a little bit more broadly than that. We're in the end of November now. It's been a very, very hard year for many people, particularly those who are most disadvantaged. We know that domestic abuse and domestic violence is spiked across the board. But from our standpoint, you know, particularly in our communities, it's an issue, it's a disease, it's a blight that we're not really putting enough time and energy into addressing. We know that the lockdown has had a disproportionately severe impact on our communities, and that will continue. The knock-on effect from that will compound that which we've experienced in this year. And particularly our youngsters who are looking for opportunities, those opportunities will be snatched from them. Many young men have worked and women have worked studied for years and listened to the advice only to have that taken away from them. And too many of our young people have no elders to turn to for wise counsel, for encouragement, for the connections. They have no social capital. And those who are the warriors then will turn to the streets in order to generate the income to feed their family and to strive to meet their visions. That's really important for us to keep in mind because obviously the situation is going to get worse. And that's one of the many reasons why we created Black Men for Change. It began in the summer of last year. For me, there'd been 2 meetings before, and I was contacted by Mark Blake, a good friend of mine I've known for, God, more than 30 years. He's now he's a Labour councillor and a cabinet member in Harrington. And he said to me, Viv, I think you should go down to Hackney and meet a brother there. I think you should go down there and meet a brother down there who's doing some interesting work, Jake Ferguson. I think you could contribute and help him around some of the stuff that he's doing. And I said to Mark, you know, I really don't like getting down into the villages. You know me already, because you get down into those villages, it's really tight down there. It's really tight around there. And when you begin to speak your mind, people are not comfortable about it. And the dysfunctionality that we've been subjected to for so long, it's very difficult for positive noise to be heard in a positive way on the ground. But he said, no, you need to go down there and connect with the brother. So I did. And I went along to a meeting that he'd called. And I got down there, I saw a lot of old school individuals. Let me hold on a second. Let me just turn this light on 1 second. I don't know if that's better, actually. Maybe not. No, sorry. Anyway, let me carry on. That's the problem with the uplight. So I went down there and I met a lot of individuals I haven't seen for ages. Leroy Lowe.
You muted yourself, Viv. You still mute.
Yeah, cool. My apologies. So when I went down to the meeting, I met a number of brothers I haven't seen for so many years. Leroy Logan, Jeremy Crook, Stafford Scott, and many more individuals. Royston was there and many more. There were also a contingent of youngers there. And we began this conversation about, you know, what more we could do, what we'd done, what we'd achieved, if anything at all, given that the violence was worse than it was 20 years ago and so on. And the fact that we hadn't done enough to collaborate with each other over the decades in order to effect change. And there were a lot of heated discussions. I know in that first meeting, the young people left disillusioned. They weren't particularly impressed with the way that we interacted with each other. But we had subsequent meetings. And over time, what began to happen is we began to find a common tone that we could all align with regarding what more we could do in a unified way to leave a legacy and set a tone, a positive public tone for our young who are coming up behind us. So as a consequence of that, we established Black Men for Change. Now that was just over a year ago now, just over a year ago. We were able to secure £350,000 from the Mayor's office to begin to develop and run leadership programs in pilot form across 4 boroughs: Lambeth, Haringey, Hackney, and Waltham Forest. And we're midway through that process. Now that's not the main purpose of the organisation, to run initiatives that are effectively financed by local, regional, or even central government. But what it's allowed us to do is find a common way of working together in order to be able to affect the change that we've all said that we want to see and that many of us have committed to over the years. It's begun to gather momentum. We've gone through the whole storming and forming phase and begun to identify those who talked a great talk but weren't serious about doing anything about it. And we're beginning to weed those individuals out. We've begun to focus on the young talent, the Gen Zers and the millennials, the young men who are looking for that intergenerational relationship that will give them the guidance, the insight, and the wisdom that they so desperately need. And many of those young men are successful. They are, you know, C-suite professionals. They're in tech, they're in finance, they're in digital media marketing, they're entrepreneurs, they're in entertainment, a range of things. But they're drawn to the Black Men for Change because of this opportunity to engage with elders who have a wealth of experience, who have come together, who have set aside their differences of old in order to be able to affect that change. And, you know, I'm involved in a lot of things, and I'll touch on a couple of those in a minute. So, you know, I thought to myself, I'd go along, I'd try it out, I'd tick a box, and I'll move on. And I began to notice in myself a desire to get along to these meetings and a sense of warmth and optimism and peace on the back of these meetings. I'd turn up to these meetings on a Friday evening. I don't know what was wrong with Jake. I don't know what was going on in his house, but he was calling these meetings at 7 o'clock. Well, this meeting's 8 o'clock on a Friday, so maybe there must be something about it. But I didn't want to go down to a venue on a chilly night to sit down and with a group of men and talk. But I found myself looking forward to it increasingly. And it was because I was talking to individuals who understand my desires, my insecurities, my fears, you know, and what gives me pleasure without me having to explain it. And I know for many of you here, you understand what I mean. We find ourselves in places where even when the people don't look like us, they're not of us, they're not from us. And you know, no matter how you try to explain where you're coming from, they won't get it and they will never be comfortable with you. And I thought to myself, my God, this thing is like a little support group. All right. I've been so long without any kind of support group, offering it, establishing it for us, trained, qualified psychotherapists, blah, blah, blah. And I'd forgotten, I'd actually begun to forget that, you know, I need it as well. So this group has continued to, you know, gain strength. I mean, there's an asset there with all the individuals on it. Royston has it. And maybe we'll circulate it to everybody else. And we're getting stronger. When we put that asset out, it's got all the core individuals on it. So the executive, it's got the core. These are the individuals that drive what we're doing on the ground in those key areas. And then it's got a body of advisors. Many familiar faces on it. We put that asset out and we circulated it. And we started getting all of this noise back from individuals who were angry about it. Not white people, but Black individuals who wanted to know where it came from, and, you know, and I know what they were really saying. They were really saying, well, how come I'm not on it? Why am I not on it? They were worried and concerned that this disruptive entity would knock them off their little perch, you know, their little income generator in the village. People started talking about, oh, you need to watch them, man. They're not serious. They, you know, they're stuff, the usual whispering campaigns, but not from the white people, from people within our own community. As we move towards the end of the year, we're beginning to look at what I would argue is the next phase for Black Men for Change. We want to be seen to be doing as much as is humanly possible to support our Black sisters, especially in this difficult time. We want to hold those men to account who feel it's okay to violate Black women, both in the home and publicly. For those who are just not well, you know, adverse childhood experiences and all the rest of it, who have not got the support, who haven't got the spaces to go into to feel the things that I have been talking about. We want to create those spaces for these men, not with funding from anyone. We set these things up because we know they need to be done. And if we are able to leverage our tax dollars out of the establishment on our terms, then fine, we will. But we raise our own money as well. We're in the process of establishing an endowment fund, again, to make sure that money more effectively gets into our communities. We've seen all of this emergency money being allocated, £750 million worth of it. But we know that despite the fact that it has been supposedly targeted at the most vulnerable in our communities, we again are the ones that have missed out. Because so many of our organizations, our voluntary sector organizations, are micro organizations, we often don't meet the criteria. I mean, I saw one come out about 3 weeks ago, the CAF fund. I think it's 10,000 to, I can't remember now, but 10,000, I think it might be 10,000 to 50,000 or 10,000 to 100,000. But, you know, in order to be eligible, your turnover had to be a minimum of £50,000. The people that are doing the most important work in our communities, you know, have got very, very small amounts of money. They're micro organizations. So we want to do more with them. As I said, we've just established it. There's 70 organizations connected to this initiative across the country. We will draw resources from the corporate sector, from our own communities, and from statutory organizations for it. We've already raised £350,000, and this is just to refine and further develop the model. Our intention is to raise tens of millions, dare I say hundreds of millions, in order to channel them into our community. And some may say, we've heard this before, you know, nothing ever changes. Well, that's fine. Maybe we won't be successful. But as long as I've got breath in my body, I will continue to try. We've just helped 2 key organizations that work specifically with men, providing them with counseling and therapy related support and family mediation, 2 Black-led organizations led by Black men. Help them to form a network that will then pull in all these other disparate micro organizations around the country doing some similar work so that they can operate in a much more coordinated fashion. We're working aggressively to get as many of our young people into the 21st century, 4IR, 4th Industrial Revolution, 5IR, 5th Industrial Revolution, which is to do with how we make technology work for us rather than against us. So whatever we can, whatever we can do to build on the work that we're currently doing, then we want to do that. And we want to work in partnership with other organizations and women's organizations to move that forward. We've got a statement going out as part of the formal launch of the organization towards the end of this month with a number of women's organizations, just making it clear what our position is going forwards around the violence against all women, but particularly Black women in our community, and what we tend to do about it, and our willingness to support and work in allyship with other organizations to make those changes. I think the last thing I want to say about Black Men for Change is the aggressive work that we want to do next year around employment and enterprise, not just in the UK, but on the African continent and elsewhere, particularly around technology and the financial services sector, but not exclusively. We already are working and have initiatives established in Uganda and Kenya in particular, that we're expanding that across East Africa. And we want to send as many of our young people out there on internships as possible as part of the initiatives that we're running here, again, around financial services specifically and technology. And more of that information will come out as we move forwards. So that's that. I want to talk quickly about the changes that are taking place on our planet. Global warming and the abuse of the planet. I don't hear this discussed in Black chat rooms or Black programs, events. I don't see anywhere. And I'm happy for people to tell me, Viv, you're looking in the wrong place, but I just don't see it. It's just almost as though we as Black people believe it has absolutely nothing to do with us. The only things we should talk about are stop and search, police violence, racism, and so on and so forth. And that's it. We shouldn't talk about technology and how we can position ourselves within this technological revolution. We shouldn't talk about the financial services sector. You know, I've been running a little experiment for the last year. I'm just talking to young Black men and women on the street and saying to them, do you know who the FCA is? Do you know who the Financial Conduct Authority is? No, never heard of them. Do you know about the financial services sector? Yeah, well, banks. They don't know anything else. They don't know anything else. And yet, we all know you can't do anything without finance, without money. I use crude word, money. You can't do anything. You can't make any moves. And yet, I can't see anyone out there talking about how we can effectively establish our own financial institutions. Fintech, I don't hear anyone talking about it at all. I said somebody put in the chat box, yeah, cryptocurrency, blockchain. I don't hear any conversations about it at all. I have to go and talk to the youngsters, you know, in university. Disproportionate number of them are individuals, you know, recently arrived from the African continent. And, but talk to elders. You don't get any information. You're lucky. The best you'll get is someone's going to talk to you about, you know, financial advice, where you invest your money here, there. That's the strongest you're going to get. But establishing and structuring our own institution, very, very rare. Because it doesn't make any sense. How can you be talking about how racist these organizations are in this little island plantation and not doing anything constructive to address it? How can you know that the fourth industrial revolution is where the future is? You can't do anything business-wise without technology. We're on technology now, and yet not have that as a central plank of every conversation you have, every strategic conversation. How can you do that? I don't understand. How can you talk about the threats to our community and not talk about global warming? And at the same time, know that some of the places that will be damaged most, right? The disproportionate number of the places that will be damaged most will be on the African continent. It does not make any sense. And when we talk about growth in the 21st century, we have to talk about the financial services, we have to talk about technology, and we have to talk about, industries that are specific to, the environment and global warming and offsetting all of that carbon-related damage. But it never comes out. And so from my perspective, we're not addressing any of those things, but all we talk about is the deficit. Our only oratory is to do with what our problems are, not what the opportunities are. Then we are clearly, diseased and beyond dysfunction. One of the most powerful things about Black Men for Change for me is its commitment to partnership. A lot of the guys that I mentioned, traditionally have just worked on their own, sole traders, and I'm not talking about work. It's one of my terms that I like to use cynically. Sole trader, do everything on their own, want to be the one on their own. When they put out the flyer, it's just them on the flyer. You look at the logo, it's just their logo. They don't collaborate. They want to eat all of the oxygen for themselves. And these individuals are recognizing now, in their third age, that that's not acceptable and they've got to do better and they've got to set a tone for the young people below. Also, that is critically important for the young people to see us as Black men working closely together, which is why that asset is out there. And please, Royston, please do send it to everybody so they can see. And it's got the contact details on it. I'm doing as best I can, right? So I never get up on a podium, right, and not talk about the planet and the protection of the planet. That's our African way. I'll never get up on a podium and not talk about technology and not immerse myself in technology. We've got 2 tech hubs in Uganda, and get up there. Aye, lovely. You're going to distract me now, though, Royston. Take it down, please, brother. And talk about technology. So I'm going back to Kenya, then Uganda and Rwanda if I can get out of here in December. And we'll be running tech hubs there. We're running tech hubs there with business startups. You talk to our young people and you say to them, you want a job? They say, I don't want a job, I want to work for myself. I want to work for myself. So I think it's critically important that we're running these kinds of business development hubs everywhere, online, offline. Of course, we talk about the challenges, but we've got to aggressively push on the opportunities, and much more aggressively than we're currently doing. And then the last piece I want to touch on is this whole idea of what ethical leadership is. I've effectively been weaving it through this little conversation. Not a presentation, like a conversation, might end a Friday ramble. What does ethical leadership mean for me? It's 3 phases or three discrete bits for me. The first one obviously starts with the self. Obviously, everybody in here, or many of you in here, will know where I'm coming from. So I'm not trying to educate you. I'm sharing with you. But I come across, and I'm still talking about Black men here particularly, I come across so many Black men they have an intellectual knowledge of self, but there's no spiritual and there's no emotional knowledge of self. There's no effort, no commitment to self-mastery. And that's critical. you know, if you're going to be effective in your leadership role internally within the self, leadership role within your family, leadership role within your immediate community, and then more widely in society as a whole. That's key. Now, we've set up something called OMA, Open Minds Alliance, and that works specifically with African and Caribbean communities around their well-being, and that includes their psychological and emotional well-being. And I won't get into any of that right now, but we understand that the therapies that they offer here are Eurocentricized versions of what it is to heal through talking and sound. So restructuring that and formalizing that and legitimizing those approaches is really important. And close brothers like Malcolm Phillips doing pioneering work out there, been running these courses for decades, and now on the back of the slaying of our beloved George Floyd, is getting some significant traction around that, and we want to amplify it. We want those courses out there widely. We want them running in the community, so you know, people in the communities can get access to those courses informally, in a matter-of-fact way, pick up those skills and just be using those skills in their daily lives. They don't see it as something that's over there and apart and clinical. They can begin to take pride in being Black men that have done their own internal self-discovery in order to be able to move their selves forward. So that's one big area for me of what ethical leadership is about. You can't be out there leading others and you're making no effort to do their own internal self-learning and get a PhD in self-knowledge. The third one, the big one for me, is what I touched on before, and that's this whole issue around finance. Not just, you know, personal finance, talk about, you know, financial management. In some respects, for me, it's patronizing. We want the finances to be able to, you know, build empires and nations and so on. I mean, institutions. We don't have any institutions in this country. The young people, they're embarrassed about it. So when I talk about money and finances, I am talking about the financial services sectors and how they function globally. You must lean into it. You can't say that you're in a leadership role and have no understanding of money. I was listening to the sister that came on before talking about how much you charge. You're absolutely right. Royston and I have had these conversations before. My baseline daily rate is £2,500 to £3,000 a day, minimum. I have absolutely no issues with that at all. I can go up to 15,000 a day, depending on who I'm talking to. But when it comes to my family, I happily do that work on my hands, on my knees for nothing. You know, pouring out that sweat equity because I'm tithing and it's beautiful. And then, you know, that financial element is key. And then the last one is the politics. And I'm talking about politics with a small p, not a capital P, even though capital P is important. You know, one of my core competencies is social policy, and I've worked for Ken Livingstone, Boris Johnson, the Home Office and other government departments for my sins, and done a fair amount of work on the continent. But it's the political element of it, understanding geopolitics from the Eurocentricized standpoint, what's happening on the African continent, what's the 2063 agenda about, you know, how robust is it? How can you be in service in moving that forwards? When people talk about the diaspora, it's not some romanticized thing, it's part of a much broader strategy. When they talk about unifying Africa, they're saying we're taking it back to what we intended it to be when these countries became independent in the first place. It's them man there that frustrated those initiatives and those visions. We're now going about doing that in a more measured and sophisticated way and incrementally, which is what 2063 agenda is about and beyond. But we need to be intimately involved in these things, you know, not romanticizing what Africa is about from some retrospective idea of what Pan-Africanism is. It's got to be a 21st century vision that our young people can connect with. It makes absolutely no sense for us to be sending young Africans from the continent to countries like this to be brainwashed to such a degree that they don't want to return and be in service. It's madness. So ethical leadership requires us to function on these meta levels and then apply them on those local levels. Let me conclude. I've got a young boy. I always carry maybe 5 or so youths around me, and over the years they've become, they used to have young women in there as well. Now they're young men exclusively, 5 a year, depending on whatever it is. And I adopt them 5 boys. I find them. So with the Black Men for Change, we're working with 85 young men across 4 boroughs, right? And the program we're using is called Change 21, right? It's a generic program, and part of the program involves bringing these local organizations together so that they work across the whole borough with their youngsters so that they can maximize their resources, right? But in it, there's the ethical leadership program that I run. And my ethical leadership program has a covert agenda. I'm going through those 85 looking for the real talent, and then I'm taking them, adopting them. They become like my children, effectively. If they need shoes, I buy them shoes. If they need to get on a plane ticket, I put them on a plane ticket. If they need to be on the course, they get on the course, right? Because I know by investing in them, they will grow massively and rapidly. So I think it's just so important that we're able to take those meta disciplines and networks and connects and bring them back down onto the grassroots. So this young guy that I'm working with at the moment, when I went up to Lambeth to do my little segment of this ethical leadership piece, I said to them, so what are you guys on, whatever, and they all sat down there, their hood down and just slumped over the chair. And I said, look, here's my number, right? Maybe 1 or 2 of you is going to call that number and your whole life is going to change. I guarantee you, promise you, on my own life, it will never be the same again. You just need to dial that number and say that you're going to be willing, you know, to put down that ego that you've had to build up to protect yourself because no one's there for you, and let me guide you. 2 weeks later, 2 guys called, and this one particular guy. And he said to me, you know, uncle, you said I was going to call, and I just thought, you know what, let me just call you innit. I said, son, it's the best decision you've ever made. Best decision you've ever made. So what is it you want to do? What are you interested in? Whatever. He said, uncle, you know what, I'm constantly being asked that. And I don't know, innit. I don't know what to say. I can only tell you that I love money. I'm into money. Money is all I'm about. And whenever I tell them that, it's like they're kind of disappointed, or they say, I need to think some more and come back to them. I said, I'm not going to tell you to do. I'm happy. You're telling me you're into money? Good. Then I'm going to educate you around buying and selling money then. You sound like a natural born broker to me. And I just on the WhatsApp, you know, sent him through some backwards and forwards. Yeah, I've heard about that, Uncle, but I just don't understand it. So I gave him a little crash course on how the brokering works, right? And the stuff that we're doing on the African continent and at the moment, and beginning to get into some of that infrastructural development stuff, because that needs money. It needs diaspora money from me and you, and it needs big money from those insurance groups and so on and so on, insurance funds and all the rest of it. So I gave him a little bit. When he finished, he said, you know what, I've never had anyone break it down like that to me before. I said, that's just the beginning. This is powerful work. You young people are constantly saying, ain't no one looking out for us. We've got to put in the work and do the work. I'm done. I'm interested in any questions. Let's see what else comes out of it.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy that we've got somebody and people like you in our community who's actually doing, not only just talking, but doing as well. Because there's a lot of talkers out there, but there's not a lot of doers. And thank you so much. And thank you on behalf of those boys as well, those young men, those young stars. So has anybody got any questions? Because you did cover a lot.
I asked a question in the chat. Thank you very much, by the way. I really appreciated what you had to say, Viv. I don't know what your full name is, but thank you. You mentioned about self-mastery, and I just wondered if you could mention some of the ways in which you've gone about self-mastery.
Personally?
Personally, and if you were advising other people as well.
Right. So when I speak to a lot of people, I mean, we've got some really powerful orators in our community, and they'll tell you there's 5 ways and 3 ways and 10 ways, and they'll come up with a whole range of different things that allow for them to break it down. But it really does, for me, come back down to some really simple, basic principles. This whole the need for individuals to have an appreciation of what drives them is really important. There's nothing, dynamic about it or sexy about it. If you've got beliefs, where did they come from? If you've got values, where did they come from? And these prejudices and these fears, where did they come from? Did they belong to you, or did you acquire them from somewhere else? Do you want to keep them, or do you want to let them go? So now going around, and I did it this last one in Black History Month, I went around to the 4 boroughs and spoke to the groups of young people. And the first thing I did was disclose my own formative experiences. Disclosure begets disclosure. So I come in, I sweep in, boom, boom, boom. The young men are watching me, and some of them might be thinking, oh, who's he think he is, and whatever. Others of them are thinking, it's really interesting. All kinds of thoughts. And then I switch and I say, let me tell you a little bit about what happened to me. And I disclosed to them about how, this woman made me eat her shit off the floor. And I tell them the story. I said, now that I've told that story, and I tell them I've told that story maybe 2,000 times, I don't know. Auditoriums, small intimate spaces, and sometimes I've told a story and I've broken down. Sometimes I've told a story and I've delivered it with rage. And sometimes I've told a story in a matter-of-fact way. And I say, every time I tell that story, I'm a little bit more liberated. I said, but I'll tell you, I'm telling the story because I know disclosure begets disclosure. And I want you to see me telling you this story and be no weaker for it. In fact, be stronger. Right? So I'm speaking my truth. I'm talking through my shame and my rage and my anger, and it's making me stronger, not weaker. So I went to 4, and of the 4 groups, the areas I went to, and I think there were 50 young men I spoke to, 4 of those young men disclosed. 5 come back to me afterwards, and I've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 into therapy so far, and another one that's looking at going in. One of them guys, he'd encourage his close friend to come with him to go and deal with some guy who'd shamed him. And as a consequence of doing that, the guy who didn't want to go along, whatever it is, ended up being murdered. And that had happened maybe 10 years ago, and he'd been carrying it all that time. And I said to him, you never had any therapy for it? And he said, no. And he said, everybody in the community blamed me for it. I went away for a number of years. I come back and he said, Viv, it wasn't until you told me that story that I realized how I'm still carrying this thing. I said, well, maybe it's time for you to find a place to put it down. Not forget it, not leave it, but be able to put it down and pick it up periodically. There's a lot of healing that we need to do in our communities with our Black men. And we've got to be willing to get down there, in the bile and do the work and be open ourselves in order for that, to encourage them to do so. That for me is the first pillar. After that, everything is easy. Right? The truth, the self-truth will set you free. Everything else after that comes easy. Comes easy. Now people come with acronyms. Oh, the first one is this and the second one is, it sounds great. It really does. And eloquent and slick, and especially in this age of social media and LinkedIn and this and that and, great. But you see, when I'm talking about the real work, people got to really connect with that stuff they don't want to look at. Sisters have been raped and abused and God knows by family, and they've never dealt with it. They've so effectively buried it that they've almost forgotten it was there, and yet it's triggering all the time. and creating fatigue that doesn't allow them to get what they want to do done. You move those things out of your system, it's effortless. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thanks, Riff.
There's a HBI. Is that the name that you want to go by? You have your hand up.
Good evening to Jean, and good evening, everyone.
Oh, hi.
Yes, it's only Hodaya.
Hodaya, yes.
Yes.
How you doing?
I am doing great, thank you. How is everyone doing? How are you doing in this climate?
Very well.
Good.
Thank you.
Right. Now, this is, I missed a lot of Rachel's, but I can tell that it went down very well. For those who do not know me, I am one of those old pioneers in banking going way back. You know, I've been in merchant and clearing banking. In my time, I was the only one of our kind around, but it was great. It was fantastic. And after over 13 years, I decided to leave and set up my own financial consultancy that I ran along with a property development business whilst I was still working in the bank, okay? And I went on for many years. And as you said, you know, earning $3,000 a day or whatever it is, we shouldn't feel bad about it, right? Because in those days when I arranged mortgages, all right, the actual income would come from the policy, right? That would go alongside the mortgage to pay that capital at the end of the mortgage term, all right? So if I did say 3 mortgages a day, I would end up with say $3,000. I'm just giving an example, okay? And I then went into food and drink, all right, and supplied supermarkets and health food shops. With
My sister, can I interrupt you?
Sorry.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes, I'm going to go on to the question.
Hold on. I would love for you to come and do a presentation on what you're saying.
Okay.
But right now, if you've got a question for the brother,
Yes,
I'd appreciate that.
I have
Thank
a
you.
burning question.
Thank you.
I love your presentation, right? And, you know, under the, you know, the circumstances that we are now in with this planned scamdemic, all right? We know that the plan is, right, to sort of like roll out this universal credit, all right? We know that they want a one world government, and that has already been decided, by the way. I think perhaps you may well be in the know, all right? Prince Charles is the head of this. Macron is the director. And basically, just like in 1884, when they carved up Africa, that's the decision. I want to ask, a decision has been made. I want to ask the brother, all right? What's your take on investing in this country? I noticed you mentioned a few African countries, which, you know, I find it very delightful because I'm heading home, all right? You know, I heard you mention, is it
So I'm going to shorten your question because of time. You've asked the question, pause. Yeah, do come back and give us a presentation later on, but we've got to manage time. Give the brother a chance to answer what you've asked, okay? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I'm going to deal with the last piece first and then go back to the second bit. I spoke at an event that was convened by Jermaine Jackman, a very powerful young brother. I think he's only 23. He's a singer, very powerful, enchanting singer, but he's also an activist, amazing brother. And he asked me to speak at an event with a number of people. And he really wanted me to come at things from a global perspective. And I started, and I don't know, about 300 young people on this thing. And I said, the first thing I said to them is, look, I want us to be clear about, you know, identity and everything else. My jumping off point is that I'm a global African. That's who I am. I'm a global African. I think globally, I strategize globally and I act locally. It could be in the UK, it could be, you know, it could be in Nigeria, it could be in the Gambia, or it could be in the Caribbean, it could be in South America where we got maybe 90 million Africans at least over there. It could be anywhere. I'm a global African, and that's what the Ma'afa did to me. You know, it's you know, dispersed me and others, you know, throughout the diaspora. And I'm not trying to be an African in the way that some of our brothers who have recently arrived would see themselves as Africans and have a nationality in that sense. I'm a global African that understands the African continent is my home. And so, of course, I'm going to want to go back there and invest and contribute to the unification of the African continent, along with everybody else in the diaspora should be doing that. Doesn't mean they can't be Jamaicans, or they can't be Black British. They can be all of those things as well. The foundation fund, and it's aiming to raise £1 billion, by the way. I said there's about 70 organizations and individuals in it. So I don't know, maybe it adds up to about 300 people. But I forced them to call it Baobab. When I say I forced, I pushed and I manipulated and I argued for it to be called Baobab, and I explained why. Now, those of you who know the Baobab tree will know, you know, it was here 200 million years ago, right? 200 million years ago, when there was only one continent. There was none of this fragmentation. And I, you know, as a futurist, so that's somebody who's thinking 500 years into the future, I'm trying to conceptualize what that might be and then work that back to today and act accordingly. I understand it's important for us to think on that meta-strategic level. So that's just my straight answer. And it makes strategic sense in terms of where the resources are, where my family is, my spiritual family, my historical family is, to be orientated towards the African continent, whilst at the same time engaging with my family all over the planet. Your discussion about a one world order. Yeah, there are many versions of that. I think at the very least, we can accept that there's a coordinated effort, you know, to ensure that those who have continue to have and consolidate what they have and have even more. We know during this, you know, so-called pandemic, the poor have got a lot poorer and the rich have got, you know, historically richer, record-breaking levels of wealth have been generating during this period. So if we just looked at the statistics, we could argue, well, at the very least, it's an informal conspiracy. I don't need to get caught up in all of that, to be honest. There's very little that I as an individual, or even with the extensive networks that I'm plugged into, can do about that. But I can make massive change in the lives of the people that I'm coming into contact with in my communities here and elsewhere. And that's where my focus is.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Sis Doctor, I see you had your hand up.
Yeah, greetings, family.
Hey.
Greetings.
Greetings, Brother Viv.
Mm-hmm.
I don't so much have a question. I want to salute you for your works. Head to head, heart to heart, toe to toe, here and abroad, above and below. I really give thanks for your works as a warrior. If I do have one question, it would be, what would you have people who are listening to you now do, if there is anything?
I was heartened to see so many people on the call. I'm not sure what the terms of reference, for want of a better description, are for this group, but it seems like a lot of sisters, not many brothers. So I'm not sure why that is. We do know, I remember when I used to buy and sell books, that I'd go to the bookshops all over the country, and they'd say that, you know, there's very few brothers coming in here to get the books, but many sisters. The organization Black Minds Matter raised £83,000 to provide free therapy in our community. And they came back and said that, you know, more than 90% of the people that have come forward for the therapy are women. So in some respects, I'm not surprised that it's predominantly women on here, but I'm not sure whether or not there's another reason for that, or even if I'm mistaken. But I think the message the key message that I'm making, the reason why I'm here, because I didn't come here, somebody mentioned presentations in here. I didn't give a presentation today. I was just talking. It's been a long, hard week. I think I said that at the top of the conversation. So I'm just chatting with you all, sharing. I didn't ask Royston for any criteria, you know, other than Black Men for Change. So I've come in and kind of given a little update and a little introduction. I can deep dive a specific theme, no problem, and come with practical things. It sounds, coming on the back of the last sister that was talking, that this group's doing great stuff already. So I don't know if I've got anything of any significance to add to it. I'm definitely not coming to instruct. I'm just sharing and saying this, for those who don't know me, this is where I'm at and this is what I'm up to. Let's make sure we are connecting and not duplicating. We're amplifying as best we can. That's probably where I am. And there are a lot of things I haven't talked about because time doesn't allow, and it's better that I do a little kind of meze, you know, a little bit of here, a little bit of this, and then maybe if it's necessary, drill down into some of the specific strategies that we're involved in. For example, we've got an initiative called the African Association for International Banking and FinTech. It's got all the top bankers, key individuals in FinTech on it. We've been working on that for 2 years. When I say top, I mean across the African continent. That's due to launch later this year and roll out from next year. For us, that's very, very important. It's powerful. It connects back to something that somebody said in the thread about FinTech. So that includes blockchain and other emerging forms of technology. So yeah, I'll only repeat what I said before. We've got to lean into the future. Don't allow ourselves to hang back too much in the past. One of my youngers, a young artist, was bantering with me today, and she said something about the past or the future. And I said, sister, we do know with higher physics, and when we're talking about not numerical time, but event time, the present, the future, and the past is all one. And that was a little checkmate for her, and in her humility, she accepted it. So I'm just glad to have been here. I'm really grateful that Royston invited me. I really am exhausted, as I said, but there's some things you've always got energy for. I had a big piece of salmon and some macaroni cheese just before I come on the call as well.
Oh, well, so your belly full then.
Aye, you know, all the blood drained on the head. And I thought, it don't matter when you're with family. It's just, you just come and be you. Just come and talk. You know, it's not, I'm not putting on a show. You know what I mean? I'm not putting on a show. I'm just going to come and talk and share the food I've got. Not the macaroni, obviously, because I've devoured that. But the spiritual food.
You've got a hand up from Brenton. Do you have a question? You have your hand up. You got that's it.
Hi, Vivi. It's a really nice presentation today. You know, but I had heard of your organization before, the Black was it?
Black Socks.
No, the Black Men.
Black Men for Change.
I went to do your mentoring course.
Yes, sir.
2 or 3 months ago? No,
hey.
a month ago it was. Brianna, I don't know if you know her. Brianna.
Yeah. I was speaking to her today. I'm meeting her on Monday.
Right. So I went to do that, and I was a bit disappointed that all your side of the organization didn't send anybody or anything in for us to work with on the day. So we ended up doing the Roots to Success. But if there's one thing, I just to give a bit of background on myself, yeah, I have a small business. It's a consultancy, and it's an engineering consultancy.
My brother, I'm gonna stop you because hold on a second. We've got to manage time.
Yeah, but this ain't gonna take long.
I am gonna stop you. If you got a question, ask the question. Otherwise, we need to roll forward.
This is the question. Let me just quickly say what I'm gonna say. What it is, Viv. My background isn't sort of in community work with the youngsters in the community. Mine is more corporate, and I work with a lot of large organizations. My background is engineering, basically, so you can see where I'm coming from. But now I'm trying to work with
And your question is, come on.
I'm trying to work with the organizations that are sort of working in the community. What I'm finding is that they just don't know how to deal with us. They really don't know. We just seem to be speaking a different language.
All right. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Brinton. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. I really like where Royston's managing up the space. Wow.
We've got another speaker and then we'll run out of time. We always crunch for time at 10 o'clock.
Brinton appreciates it, I'm sure. So first point is in regards to sides. There's no sides in Black Men for Change, brother. BTEG is a part of Black Men for Change. Jeremy sits as one of the members of the executive, so there are no sides. That's the first point. But I take your in regards to that particular project, there are different people who are responsible for different bits, 100%. I don't know why anyone never turned up. I wasn't asked. If I had been asked, I would have done. So it might be an idea for them to arrange another session for, and I'll happily come along. I did come to the first one, which was on a Saturday. I wasn't invited back. And I know it couldn't have gone to anyone else because it would have had to go to me first. There's only 2 people that could have been invited to attend to speak. That would have been Jake or myself. Neither Jake or I got an invite. I can guarantee you of that. But we're not about apportioning blame. We can get to the bottom of that and address that easy. What I can say is that we had a conversation on Friday about the fact that the mentors are not being utilized effectively by the projects on the ground in those boroughs. That's why, and you can talk to Brianna, she will tell you, that's why me and her are talking on Monday. I've already said to her, I'm going back to the boroughs in January for my part 2. I want to bring the mentors with me. Let's not wait on those local leaders who are supposed to be making the referrals and so on. We'll go in there and fire up them young people and plug them in straight away. The 5-6 youths that I've already drawn out from the first trips that I went around, or connect them up with the mentors that they've already got there, because it's a massive opportunity. Why wouldn't we be allowing that to happen? The last point you make about different language, you're absolutely right. Of course, we're speaking different languages. Now, I'm a hybrid. Yeah, I've gone out of my way to learn the different languages and appreciate them. So like you know, I work in the corporate sector. It's got its strengths and it's got its drawbacks. Its strength is then people are focused on the bottom line. So once they decide it's good for them, they will get on and do it, and they'll do it quick, right? But they're mercenary. When we go back to the voluntary sector, they got no bottom line. They don't even know where the bottom line is. If you send them to find the bottom line, 3 weeks later, they'll still be looking. But their heart is massive, yeah, for the work that they're doing. We need a balance in between the two. And that's one of the things that Black Men for Change is trying to do, which is why we're reaching out to individuals like yourself. You know, I've got big pieces of consultancy, European Investment Bank, I've got a big piece of consultancy with them at the moment. And I'm flagging these 2 up for a reason. The other one's Google. Going back to Sister's conspiracy points that she was making, Google is probably the cloven hoof. They don't know what they're up to in terms of, you know, controlling big data and using that to manage our lives, along with Amazon and the rest. We've got to exercise more patience in putting in the work to get the outcomes that we're looking for. We give up too easy. Yeah. So Brinton, look, what I'm hearing is you're already part of the family, brother. Take my number and let's connect and move that stuff forwards. You know, I got involved in some activist stuff many years ago. And I said to the brother, I said, look, you know, I'm one of them people, when I get in, I'm putting the work. Some of your people might get uncomfortable with me and want to know where this guy's going and what he's up to. And he turned around to me and he said, listen, Viv, this is how we work here. Those who do the work lead. That's the only structure we run. And that's how I've maintained things. If a man's coming in and he's performing, let him drive the stuff. Yeah, he ain't going to outperform me because I'm a machine. Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. This is what the youths want. They are inspired by. You're not intimidated. They're not intimidated by. You're not intimidated by them. I was coming up with the underneath the Garveyites and all the rest of it. And when I wanted to move up and assert myself, they were suppressing me. And a lot of us experienced that from our elders when we were younger. I don't want to have experienced that and then, you know, do exactly the same thing to the generation coming out. All right, thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you, Viv. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We need a lot more of you in our community. Thank you. We move swiftly on to our next presentation. We have Brother Omowale, and he's talking about the life and times of Marcus Messiah Garvey, I should say. I correct myself, the Right Honourable Marcus Messiah Garvey. Omowale, the screen is now yours, and welcome.
On mute.
You're muted. Omowale, you're muted.
Okay. I hope that means that I can be heard now.
Yes, you can be heard.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I like to start always with the drum. I hope that it can be heard. I understand that if I speak and drum at the same time, I understand that it can be heard. But apparently, if I stop speaking, the drum can't be heard.
Actually, so it's going to the room. We can hear the drum now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm hitting the high end of the drum right now, rather than the bass.
I see.
And this is a traditional West African beat. It's actually called "The King is Coming," and this is what used to be beaten when people like Mensa Musa would go on pilgrimages. This is the beat that would follow him around to let people know that he was coming into their part of the territory. And just to thank you again for calling our ancestors. Shio. Yeah, so just to say a warm greetings to everybody who takes time to listen to the, or just to be part of, not listen, to be part of the Garvey Village project, either as an actual activist inside or somebody who participates in these kind of forums that are put on every Friday. I've been doing a series of presentations really in relation to the life and times of Marcus Garvey. And just to get a sense of what's happened so far, I think there have been 5 so far, but covering 4 areas. So in the first, we looked at the birth and the context of the birth, surrounding the birth of Marcus Garvey. We looked at the early years of Marcus Garvey, and again, the context surrounding the early years of Marcus Garvey. We also looked at Garvey in England. So we spent a bit of time, because he came here on 4 different occasions, and we just looked briefly at his time here and how that impacted on his life. Now, today, I'm going to be moving into looking at elements of the kind of personal life of Garvey and other people, and people close to him. So that Garvey, he was married twice, his 2 wives, for instance, they will obviously come into that conversation. He had 2 children. So the sons will at some point be mentioned in that conversation. But when we talk about the personal side of people's lives, we can go into an area which is uncomfortable. or it has the potential to be uncomfortable, because the personal side will have its positives and its negatives. That's one thing to bear in mind. And also there's this contrast between the private and the public aspects of the person. And sometimes when we take private aspects of people and put them into the public domain, it can, you know, generate emotions. I think in order to explain what I'm trying to do here, I look at two people who have both talked about the heavy influence that Marcus Garvey had on them. And the first is Malcolm X. If you look at Malcolm X, whose parents were both officers in the UNIA, senior officers in the UNIA, and you look at the personal life of Malcolm X, one of the things that will come out of that is that Malcolm X was a pimp. He was a drug pusher. He did all kinds of bad things. He was in prison. There's a bit in his autobiography where Malcolm X says that I was so crazy, this is a quote actually, I was so crazy I could have killed. That's a quote from his biography. When I reflect on that statement, I say to myself that Malcolm X, if he had killed, could not write it down in an autobiography or in a biography, because it was Alex Haley that wrote it, not he himself. So he may have even been hinting that he had gone that far to have actually killed a fellow human being. And so what we see at the time of Malcolm X being called Detroit Red was a real renegade. In many respects, a disgrace to our community. And when he went into prison and he came into contact with the Nation of Islam in prison, it transformed him. And he came out to become one of the greatest African leaders of the last century. And the reason I mention that is that he sets us an outstanding example. Malcolm X was, in a sense, dead and buried. He was so bad. But he became that, as I said, that outstanding example. And the point about Malcolm X's life, or one of the points about Malcolm X's life, is that if he can do it, if he can come from the depths of almost hell to the heights that he reached, he's a beacon of hope for all of our young children, some of whom will be in the depths of hell right now, maybe carrying guns, maybe walking around with knives, being a danger to themselves and others. If Malcolm X could do it, that means that every one of those young people caught in that quagmire has the potential to make that transformation. And if we can in some way make an intervention to allow that transformation to happen, as happened in the life of Malcolm X, this is a massive boost to the whole African community everywhere. So I mentioned that because the personal life of Malcolm X, or the bits of the personal life of Malcolm X that I mentioned, are, you know, not things that he was proud of in his latter life. He was honest about it, but he wasn't proud of it. In the case of Martin Luther King was a different type of character. Both had great admiration for Marcus Garvey, of course. But Marcus Garvey was a preacher. He was an upright citizen. He was a shining example of, you know, good behavior, good conduct in the community. And he was making such an impact at one point that the FBI decided to spy on him to pry deeply into his personal life to see what they could find to discredit him. And they found something. They found that he was having at least one affair. He's a married man, he's a preacher. And it goes against the morals of him being a preacher for him to be having an affair. And so when they got hold of this information, they decided to release that information to cause him massive embarrassment, but not just massive embarrassment, to just totally discredit him because of that, what they saw as a personality fault. But something very interesting happened, because the public in what I call USA actually began to respect Martin Luther King more when they found out that he was having an affair, perhaps than they did before that occasion, partly because it was an intrusion and an attack on his personal life, partly because of that, but also partly because it showed that, he's human. He has the same frailties and weaknesses as the rest of us. And so when we look at some of the weaknesses of the greats, we look at those weaknesses as in some ways as a lesson to ourselves, that those of us who are perhaps not so great can perhaps develop, even with our faults, to make some level of contribution, maybe even an outstanding contribution to the advancement of our people. So I just wanted to explain that as a reason or a kind of backdrop to looking at some of the personal aspects of Marcus Garvey. Now, I'm going to go back to Garvey's childhood. And in his childhood, he talks about, he doesn't name her, he talks about a European girl who was his playmate as a child. And so the two of them became very close friends. And it's clear from what Garvey tells us that there was a bonding between them. And when they reached around about the age of puberty, this European girl was removed completely from Jamaica and sent to Scotland. Now, it's quite clear that even though there was an emotional bond between the two of them, it was quite clear from the way that Garvey relays the story that it didn't lead to any kind of physical intimacy between the two of them. It was an innocent relationship. They were good friends. And that was the point at which he kind of realized that race was an issue in the world. Before then, it hadn't even occurred to him that race was an issue, and that they were taking this girl and sending her to Scotland because there was something about him and his Africanness that was feared. Now, that tells us a number of things, or I suppose it gives a number of hints. But one of the things that I'm going to highlight is this: Garvey was never against Europeans for the sake of being European. So he was not against other people because of their race. He was for African people and bringing us to the level that we should be, but he was not against other races. So when you look at Garvey, and I've looked at quite a lot of Garvey, you don't see anything which is anti-European for the sake of being European, on the basis that people are European. You don't see anything which is anti-Arabic just because somebody is Arabic. You don't see anything that's anti-South Asian, what today would be called India and Pakistan, for instance, because people are from that part of the world. You don't see anything which is anti-Chinese or Japanese, etc. There's nothing of that sort in Garvey. Garvey was an actual lover of humanity, but he realized that his focus needed to be on African people because we were the most downtrodden or held back in the world, and that aspect is an important part of his personality to be aware of. And it's important to be aware of it because there are many people who try to present Garvey as being anti other people just because of differences in skin color. But moving on from that, I want to move on to his relationship with Amy Ashwood Garvey. And I'm going to ask Royston actually to just come in and stop me whenever, okay? Because it won't, we won't fit in the time. I'll do as much as I can and maybe continue on the next occasion. Amy Ashwood Garvey was a childhood sweetheart, or a sweetheart of Marcus Garvey when he was a young man. They met through their oratory. So they both enjoyed public speaking, not just enjoyed public speaking, but actively participated in events that would improve their public speaking. And Garvey comes into contact with Amy Ashwood as a young girl, really, who was engaged, doing a public speaking engagement, a public speaking competition, actually, at her school. So I think the first thing to notice is that Garvey, who was born in 1887, was 10 years the senior of Amy Ashwood, who was born in 1897. Well, actually, it's 9 and a bit years, but they were born a decade apart, essentially. So Garvey meets up with Ashwood when she's a teenager and he is in his mid-20s. And so, it raises all kinds of issues around the age disparity between the two. Was he somebody who was taking advantage of a young girl? All these kinds of issues come up. But of course, the answer to that latter question about taking advantage of a young girl has to be no, because we know that the history went beyond that initial meeting. And we know, and we'll come to it maybe a bit later, that they even got married at some point in the future. But they were engaged. And that age disparity is significant. I don't know if that was the reason why Amy Ashwood went away to Panama. She was taken away to Panama. Her father took her away to Panama a little bit before Garvey came over to England. And so I'm not sure, I haven't seen enough history to be able to say whether that age disparity was the difference. But I know certainly in my own case, my father was 15 years older than my mother. And I know that my grandparents, my maternal grandparents, ran my father when he came looking to have a relationship with their daughter, who was clearly much younger. What engage meant at that time is also something that I'm not clear on. And maybe there are linguists who will be able to help us. But in Old English, the term engage was used to describe what today, in today's language, would be described as sexual intercourse. And when an engagement happened, when in the way that it was used then, when a man engaged a woman, it meant that he had to marry her. Now that term changed over time. And so the term engagement now means that we have made an agreement to get married. And it doesn't necessarily mean that any intimate physical interaction has taken place between the two. And I only mentioned that in relation to the obvious age disparity between the two of them. So Ashwood goes to Panama, Garvey comes to England. But they remain in contact with each other. So they, they're in correspondence with each other. They write to each other. And two critical things happen during that period that they're apart. Here in England, Garvey says that he is engaged to an Irish Spanish heiress. This is the language that he's said to have used. Which means that he is engaged to a European woman here in England. How that term engaged was being used, again, linguists might be able to explain to us what that meant 110 or so years ago, the more precise interpretation of that 110 years ago. At the same time, Amy Ashwood becomes pregnant for another man. Remember, there are thousands of miles apart. But what is interesting is that when they return to Jamaica, and both of them return to the island of Jamaica, they, they come back together and they forgive each other. They forgive each other and they form the UNIA in 1914. So jointly they start the UNIA, although some interpretations will explain that Garvey formed it and the first member was Amy Ashwood. But the truth is they jointly formed the organization, and history has a way of trying to kind of write the woman's role out, or if not out, give it less weight. Moving forward, in 1916, Garvey leaves Jamaica to go to what I call US Satan. And in US Satan, his intention is to meet up with Booker T. Washington. It's to fundraise for the UNIA. And he intends to spend about a year there before returning. But when he gets there, circumstances change significantly enough for him not to return to Jamaica. And what happens is in 1918, Amy Ashwood migrates and goes to live in New York. So both of them are in New York. And in New York, they come together. They're both founder members of the UNIA, and they continue to work together as founder members of the UNIA, but they continue to have an intimate, personal relationship. Amy Ashwood's role in the organization is as as the secretary of the UNIA, and in many ways the personal secretary of Marcus Garvey. But she's also, a bit of the history that's not always explained, she is also the first director of the Black Star shipping line. So, you know, there was status attached to her role also. And one of the things about the UNIA was it was very important in the UNIA to have women as directors in the UNIA. So you had, you know, the leading person in every chapter. They had a lady president and a male president. They had a lady vice president and a male vice president. And you had to have that structure in place in order to be a part of the UNIA. Now, their relationship actually gets closer as we come into October of 1918. And the reason why that happens is because somebody comes into the office in order to assassinate Marcus Garvey. A man by the name of George Tyler comes into the UNIA office, and he could get into the UNIA office because he was a member of the UNIA. He sold the Negro World newspaper. So he was getting an income from being a member of the UNIA. And I'm not sure of what his reason was, and I don't think there's any documentation as to what his reason was for trying to assassinate the UNIA, Marcus Garvey. But what he actually does is he comes into the office, pulls out a gun, and basically starts shooting at Garvey. And Amy Ashwood Garvey jumps in the way. She puts herself in the middle, in front of the gun. You know, literally, you're not killing my man. You know, literally. You have to kill me first in order to get to my man. It was this kind of response that she gave. And so every time he pointed the gun and fired, she pushed herself in the way. Now, Garvey was shot twice. So this man was definitely trying to kill Garvey. Yeah. But he also, thankfully, appears to have been determined not to kill Amy Ashwood. And so her bravery, her willingness to give her life to save his life, actually saved his life. You know, that's love. You know, being willing to give up your life for, you know, another person. That is love. To put yourself in front of a bullet for another person. And, you know, this happened on October the 15th, actually, 1918. And within 10 weeks of that, they were married. So they got married on the, let me see, it was the 25th of December, Christmas Day, did I say 1918? Sorry, it was 1919. She arrived in US Satan in 1918, and this was happening in 1919. It's October 1919 when the assassination attempt happens, and it is Christmas Day 1919 where they get married. They get married on Christmas Day. They have a Catholic wedding service. And that would prove significant for a number of reasons later. But remember, they were, when they were apart, they both engaged with relationships with other people, even though they maintained correspondence with each other and maintained their love for each other in that correspondence. And this sowed I'm suggesting, seeds of doubt in them about each other on the issue of fidelity. And so they were each suspicious of the other on the issue of fidelity. So they eventually they got into a spat and publicly accused each other of infidelity. Their marriage lasted from the 25th of December 1919 until the 6th of March 1920. So they were married essentially for 3 months. Is that 2 months or 3 months? Yeah, that's 3 months, isn't it? Is that it? Well, less than 3 months. And then Garvey petitions for divorce. The divorce is hotly contested by Ashwood, by Amy Ashwood. So she doesn't want a divorce, but he does. And he presses ahead to try and get a divorce, and she just point blank refuses. And it takes from the 6th of March is when he petitioned from divorce. It took until July of 1922 for the divorce papers to come through. But there are complications. Some of the complications are the divorce doesn't go through in the state where they got married. He has to go to another state to get the divorce papers through, because the contest or the contestation from Amy Ashwood is so strong that he can't get it in the New York state, which is where they were based. All of this, of course, was happening in Harlem at the time. They were based in Harlem. They were operating out of Harlem. They were operating in New York City, and that's part, as I understand it, of the New York state. So he goes to another state, succeeds after a couple of years in getting a divorce through, despite Amy Ashwood's refusal to grant or to agree with the divorce. And in that same month, July 1922, he remarries. Now, in the interim period, his secretary was Amy Jakes Garvey, and he remarries, and his second marriage is to Amy Jakes Garvey. So his first wife was Amy Ashwood, his second wife was Amy Jakes.
I wonder, Omowale, whether that might be a good place to pause. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
finish
Yeah.
the
Okay. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And then if you want to finish the
I'll
sentence.
stop there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well. Okay. Let me bring this one in. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That when you go back to the first marriage, the maid of honor at the first marriage was Amy Jakes. Amy Ashwood and Amy Jakes were best friends. They were bosom buddies. They did everything together. They were literally best friends. So what then happens is he divorces one best friend and he marries the other best friend. And so that has obvious implications for the dynamics of the relationship between the three of them. And I'll stop there, and we might talk a little bit more about the dynamics of the relationship, as we come on to the next one, maybe on the next session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was getting into that.
I know, it's always riveting.
But yeah, has anybody got any questions?
Just wanted to say, can you hear me, Jean?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm really, really, it was profound listening, and I really thank Omowale. I've listened to him many times before on certain talks on radios, and I really appreciate what he's put across, and it is a good listening, I must admit. Thank you very, very much, Omowale. Really, really pleased. And it was like sitting at your feet and you were telling a story. It really was almost lilting words coming around, and everything that he put across was heard and listened. And yeah, that has really assisted me to put, you know, that part of history in my mind. But thank you very, very much, Omowale. Thank you.
Omowale?
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you.
Was there any evidence of him having an affair with both of them at the same time?
Okay, you see, we're talking about personal relationships here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go on to say things on the next occasion that we come together. Yeah. But the evidence can only really be circumstantial. And what I would say is this, is that if you go back to that period, in June of 1919, the Black Star shipping line was launched. And when it was launched, the membership of the UNIA went up to 2 million people. 2 million Africans rushed to buy shares, not just to buy shares, but to join the UNIA. When Marcus Garvey, the attempted assassination happened, it went up to 4 million. And Marcus Garvey was, at that point, literally the most famous African man in the world. So if you can imagine that, you know, he's the most famous African man in the world. You know, women would not necessarily want to be refusing to have a relationship with him. So we've got a situation where best friends even are competing to be his wife. Whether that means that he was, you know, having relations with more than one of them at the same time, we will never know that. And there is no evidence, concrete evidence, to show that that is what happened.
Okay.
Or at least if there's evidence, I don't know.
Thank you. I see Hudaya has muted, but she's also gotten up. So has anybody else got any questions? Oh, Hudaya, you're back.
I'm here, Sister Jean.
All right. You have a question?
No. Is my hand up?
Oh, because you're muted.
Oh, okay, sorry. No.
Okay.
I think I was the first to buy Brother Omowale's book from Amazon, if you remember. I think I was the first. Yes, and of course, Marcus Garvey is just one of my favorite heroes. You know, all the things, his dreams, I know will come through one day. I know we have regressed so much. I mean, private life, so what? So many people have things that's happened in their private lives, you know. This is just another one, so what?
True.
But great presentation, Brother Omowale.
Well said, sister, well said.
Thanks, Sister Hodaya. Let me just say, in relation to the point that Sister Hodaya has just made, this is the mature way to deal with these issues. We were all young once. If we if we scrutinize ourselves, all of us, there are things in life that we have done that we may not be so proud of. Yeah, we were all young once, and we were dealing with young people at that time. Yeah, and so we must understand that context when we're looking at this. And so, because they did things which might look a little bit strange to us now, yeah, we did things that were a little bit strange. Again, it's this idea of potential. You don't have to be perfect to make an outstanding contribution to the advance of our people. and looking at what may seem like imperfections is very helpful to help us to understand those of us who might think that we have no value. You know, we've made mistakes, we've committed crimes or whatever it is, or, you know, things have gone wrong for us in life or one way or another. We behaved in a way that was, that, you know, we're not best pleased with now on reflection. It doesn't negate the positive contributions that we can make. Very important point you've made, Sister Hadaya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marlene, quick question.
No, I would also add to that, that when you look back on the European lifestyle also, we mustn't forget all the... Why am I hearing myself back?
You've got an echo.
Yeah, I don't know why. Has it gone? Yeah. Yeah, when you look back, all the greats in the Europeans have done and got some horrendous history, but the thing is, they don't concentrate on it and they sweep it under the carpet, and everything they tell you is that they've been very perfected. Nothing was you know, dreadful. When you look at the royal family, when you look in the parliament, wherever you look in Capitol Hill, they've all got some horrendous murky side, but unfortunately, you've got to dig to find it. It's never put as front. It might be mixed halfway in, what they mention about themselves, but it's not the basis that they concentrate on. So when we talk about ourselves, especially when we're talking about young people, we shouldn't emphasize it, because I've heard people come up and said, oh, he was a pimp, he was a... Look, Trump family was pimps in there. And a lot of European had some murky, dreadful side to them, but nobody talk about it. But unfortunately, Black people always say, oh, look, he was this, he was that. And that's the part, unfortunately, we concentrate on about ourselves. And that is the least part. And it does irritate me sometimes when we hear too much about what we do, because it goes in all walk of life, the Asian life, everywhere, you know? So we can mention it, but when other people who don't know the same to the level of some of us, that is the part they take away, unfortunately. And then they do mention it, because I've had people come to me and said, oh, he weren't a good person, he this, that. And I'm thinking, well...
Thanks, Marlene.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Love you lots.
Yeah.
Auntie Jean, give thanks.
Yeah, I give thanks to our presentations from can't speak but speak. To Rachel, giving thanks, big thanks to Viv, and also thank you very much to Omowale, and those who, and even though he's not going to be continuing the story tomorrow on Sunday, but Omowale is back on the Auntie Jean's African Culture Market on Sunday, talking about Is Africa Our Future? So
Auntie Jean, will Omowale be continuing this story?
He'll be continuing this story next month.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
Oh no. You have to wait that long.
Keep listening.
Positive though, it's going to be the positive part.
Yes, yes. He'll be back on the 11th of December.
Oh, all right, okay.
So the second Friday of every month, you'll catch Omowale.
At this time as well, so we all cuddle and cozy.
Yes.
7 o'clock we start.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, so a great big thank you to Omowale. Yes, I know I could sit down and listen to the whole story this evening, but due to time, we have to finish and break it. So yes, you'll catch Omowale back on Sunday, the Auntie Jean's African Culture Market, between 7 o'clock and 10 plus. Also, we have Daniel Pink is going to be on the bill, and also Dr. Stephen Ferguson. So that is on Sunday, this Sunday the 15th. I'll put my number into the chat, and if you're not on the emailing list, just give us a call and I can put you on there. Or if you just want to join us for the Sunday, I'll give you the link for that. Also, thank you, Shaz, for putting in the Garvey Village details into the chat. There is the website that if you want to make a donation via PayPal, you can via the website, which is allthewsgarveyvillage.org, or you can put in, make your donation via the bank account. And, you know, all donations will be grateful, even if everybody here paid £1, that will do to, as I said, you'll go to good works and it'll go to the Garvey Village and helping to materialize. So please, thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for coming. And it's, as I said, it's been a good evening. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Love
much.
you. Bye.
Thank you. Wonderful evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Give thanks. Blessed love.
Good night.
Good night, good night, black people.
African people. African people. There's no black. African.
I slip up. It happens to the best of us.
Africans here. There's no black land out there. There's Africa. There's no black land.
Well said, Jean. Well said. It won't happen, Jean. It won't happen again.
Okay, cool. Okay. Good night, everyone. Don't forget to save your chat. Oh, I've got to put the thing in there.
What? Oh, and to Deborah.
Okay.
Okay, 1 minute. Nearly done. Okay.
Don't be ringing me now.
Got it?
Okay. So I'll put my number in there if anybody wants to link up for the details for Sunday. And thank you all for joining us this evening and looking forward to seeing you on Sunday. Thank you.
Yep.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye, people.
Everyone.
He's still there laughing.
Love that laugh.
Don't encourage him.
That's good. It's infectious.
Okay.
Take care now.
All right.
Peace.